Hello, my name is Joe Harris, and we are going to discuss John Wilson, who is a 16-year-old white male currently in the 10th grade at Summit Academy, which is the educational services arm of Piney Ridge Behavioral Health Facility. John Wilson currently lives with his mother and father, his biological mother and father, and he has 4 siblings in which he is the next to oldest. John's parents report that his birth was unremarkable, but when he was small he had to have tubes placed in his ear due to constant ear infection. She did report that he had small delays when he was an infant and toddler in meeting his milestone. John's behavioral problems began at an early age. He has been placed in and out of behavioral health hospitals over 9 times, beginning when he was 6. John has been diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, intermittent explosive disorder, and oppositional defiant disorder. Some of his symptoms is he displays a very limited attention span, aggression. He also has problems with coordination. He's kind of clumsy. He rocks back and forth at times. He has sleep problems, and when he gets mad, sometimes he bangs his head. He's currently taking numerous medications to address all of these issues. John wears glasses, and the glasses correct his vision to normal, and he has normal hearing. He was most recently screened this past year. John receives special education services, other OHI, or health impaired. Back in his home school at Greene County Tech, he receives 250 minutes of direct instruction in the special education classroom in math and English, but he's in other classes during the general education week. John is currently a patient at Piney Ridge Treatment Facility for sexual aggression and other inappropriate activities. While there, he receives individual as well as group therapy to address these issues. John also received speech therapy but was released from speech therapy this past year when he did his reevaluation. John attended Greene County Tech, who done his evaluations and forwarded his files, or part of his files, to us here at Summit Academy. The first assessments that were done in there are curriculum-based assessments. These are used by teachers and are able to judge how well the student is doing compared to the local curriculum. These assessments that we received were done very haphazardly. It was on a standardized form that had sections for behavior and attitude, work habits, absences, tardies, grades, and sections for notes. Each CBA was completed differently and to different levels of completeness. And I will discuss the ones that were reported. World history was reported by the teacher of him having a 59% grade. That was all that was reported. In biology, for behavior and attitude, he was rated acceptable, courteous, and responds positively when corrected. His work habits are acceptable, but no grades were given other than a note made that his work is completed incorrectly. Speech did not report on any of his work habits, but they reported his grades. His grades overall, he has a 60% average in the class, 73% on tests, 100 on homework, and 36% on classwork. He also takes a survey of agriculture, and all that was completed on this CBA was behavior and attitude was acceptable and work habits were acceptable. Then he takes a class called CBA. And what was completed on that assessment was behavior attitude was acceptable, work habits were acceptable, and he had a grade of 61%. The notes in this one said James is working consistently and a little behind, and James is often called to the office to meet with the nurse during his time. The CBAs do not offer a very good picture of his educational performance because all of them say that his work habits and behavior attitude are all acceptable, but what little bit of grades that are given were just not very good. The next assessments that are in his educational file is John completed the STAR test, which is an assessment that's given by the school, usually each semester, that can tell the school or teacher and the parent how well the student is progressing. And it's compared to other students in his age, both in the same school and nationally. The school reported his scores on his latest STAR test in a spreadsheet type form, and reported scores for reading literature, reading informational text, language, numbers operations, geometry, statistics, and algebra. He shows that he is way behind grade level on this last STAR test. In reading portions, he scored that he is grade equivalent of a 5th grader. But in math, it was higher, up to a 6th grade level. Also, during this evaluation, he was seen by the school psychologist and was given the Reynolds Intellectual Assessment Scale. This test tests his intellectual functioning and can be used on all ages of people. This measures his problem-solving ability and is able to think or reason. And like other tests of this type, it's measured on a scale with a standard score of 100. These scores were reported in 3 categories: the composite index, nonverbal, and verbal intelligences. He scored around 75 on each of these scores, with the standard being 100. This means he is moderately below the average range. Having scored that low on these tests, he is in the 3rd percentile, which this test shows that he may have trouble and have to work a little harder learning complex and other educational tasks. John was also administered the test of language development. This is part of his speech evaluation. This test has 13 scores on it, and all the scores fell within the normal limits of a student his age. John was also administered the clinical evaluation of language fundamentals. This is another assessment, and it measures a student's strengths and weaknesses when using language. Again, he scored within the normal limits, and because of this, his last evaluation, they removed him from needing speech therapy. John was then given the Kaufman Test of Educational Achievement. This assessment measures achievement in reading, math, and written expression. It's often used in screening. John took this test a few years ago, but it was reported in all of his re-eval paperwork. This test has 14 sections, and on each section he scored below average in everything except for nonsense word coding, which is using chunking sounds or certain sounds to help you build words. In that area, he scored average. All of these scores that are reported in his educational file during his evaluation show that he is well behind other kids in his age group or grades. He does show some strength. He decodes words well. He makes inferences to real-life situations when reading text. He's able to write simple stories from prompts and enjoys working with technology. So in the area of reading, I think he should work on improving his vocabulary and reading fluency, and also punctuation, all of this will help him in others. He has strengths in math. He can add, subtract multiple digit numbers, multiply single digit, and knows money denominations, the values. So in math, he needs to work on learning multiple digits and start working on division. This is the summary for John, and that is all. Thank you.